Hello everyone, my name is Serpent95 and today I'm bringing you another first impressions video, and this time it's of another horror game or survival horror or whatever, and well, as you may see, it's The Evil Within. Now it's been around 2 weeks since this game was released, and I'm only doing first impressions now. And since I'm well aware of the fact that it has been quite some time, it clearly shows this video is not coming up just now because of whatever reasons that I have not been able to upload, or whatever. I haven't had the whole thing at all. So why have I taken my time? Well, mostly because I played Alien Isolation instead. I just want to point out that it's not because I played a little bit of The Evil Within and then like, oh, this is not a good game, and went back to Alien Isolation. No, I'm going to say right away now that I think The Evil Within is a good game, and it's possibly worthy of your time, depending on what you perceive from this video and other reviews. Although this isn't a review really, but whatever. So it's kind of been like, oh, I want to play both games. And I mostly played Alien Isolation because I felt more like it, but now I'm bringing you with this first impressions, although it is a bit late, but better late than never, as to say, eh? So, I believe with Alien Isolation, the first thing I talked about was the horror aspect, and I will do the same with The Evil Within, because it makes sense, really. I mean, it is a horror game we're talking about, and it was, by the time it was announced, it was perceived as like the game that would bring the horror genre back, and well, at that time it really made me like, oh my god, this game could be very good, because at that time there wasn't really good horror games really, at least not AAA. But since then there have come out some fairly good ones, like mostly on the indie scene, like with Outlast, but also recently Alien Isolation. So The Evil Within having to like reborn the horror genre is not as necessary right now, which is good because it doesn't really. Unfortunately, so if you were hoping for like this horror masterpiece that would bring back the genre to its peak, well, I'm sorry to say, you're gonna be disappointed. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad game, however, at least not in my opinion. This game has received very mixed opinions about this, but I'm going to stay on the positive sides mostly, because as with any other game, there obviously are a few things that I don't think are good. But let's get back to topic with the whole horror. So, is it a scary game?
Seems someone wants me.
Not really. I mean, like, not in the same sense as Alien Isolation, perhaps. Although I'm gonna stop my comparisons there, because outside of them both being horror games, there's nothing I can compare with, really. They're still different. But I mean, from what I played, the game does seem to have a pretty good atmosphere. It was a little bit not so much weak, but it was like okay, but it has gotten better, the whole atmosphere thing. But again, is it scary? No, not really. But I would still say it's a good horror game, and the reason why is because while it isn't really scary, I'm not like tiptoeing and like, oh, what's over there? It's not on that level, but like when something like enemies pop up, I tend to feel like shit, I need to survive. Like I'm not really afraid of the enemies, but I kind of have this slight panic feeling, especially when there's a lot of enemies, or if there's really tough ones like the chainsaw wielding maniac that I encountered, as well as this weird multi-armed and dark-haired something that it looked like something that could have come from a Japanese horror movie, really. So I'm like, shit. So, well, I would actually compare it to the Dead Space games, actually. Like, both of these games, they have great, good atmospheres, but they're not really scary in the sense that you're afraid all the time. It's more of a sort of panic feeling when you feel that shit, I might not survive, and I really want to survive, if you know what I mean. So when I do encounter these boss fights, or when it's a lot of enemies coming at me, it surely does give me some panic feelings. So, well, that's actually pretty good, because that means I would still it's still a horror game. Maybe not so much on the scary factor, but it does what it does fairly well, actually. And I think it's mostly because of the enemy design, because I just described the Grudge kinda look alike, and the Chainsaw Maniac, and there's one other boss that I've yet to encounter who has a lockbox on his head, or if that is his head, I really don't know, but most enemies tend to look fairly disturbing in a way. Yeah. So now that I've covered the horror aspect, let's get to the gameplay, because I feel there are some things I need to point out here. Well, you gather resources, as in most horror games, and with resources I mean mostly ammunition and health packs, although I don't remember what they're called in this game, but, well, health. There's also what's it called? Parts you can acquire to the very light crafting system in this game. I believe you can only craft bolts for your crossbow, and, well, that's it. And then there's also this green goo. I don't know what it is, but it's in jars, and some enemies may spill them out once they die, which you can use to buy upgrades for your character. The gameplay itself is kind of like a combination between stealth and shooting. You can sneak up on the enemies and sneak kill them by stabbing them in the head with a knife, which seems like a good idea when they have a lot of pointy things coming out of their heads that, well, actually going through their heads. So why a knife stab in the head would kill them? I don't get it, but whatever, fine, it's a video game. It doesn't have to make sense all the time. Although mostly it has to. And then there's also the shooting part where, so far I have a revolver, a shotgun, well, 2 shotguns actually, and the crossbow with various kinds of bolts. And, well, it runs good. Well, whatever. I have one issue, however, because now I suppose it kind of the game kind of gives you choices, like do you want to sneak or do you want to shoot your way through. However, with these types of games where ammunition is not really plentiful, you may want to sneak most of the time, and well, that makes sense. However, from at least from the first few chapters I played, stealth is a viable option, but mostly. But there have been several sections where you can't do stealth at all. You have to shoot, or sometimes it's that enemies are coming for you, or it's a boss fight, or it's just that a particular type of enemy that is invincible unless it gets damaged. And I will get back to this later because I kind of want to raise another point. But with those enemies, I'm fairly certain you can't sneak your way through them. You have to shoot them. You have to kill them. So I feel that's a little bit. I mean, I don't really like being forced when I forced to have to shoot my way through. When I got the initial feeling that I would, in a sense, kind of like Dishonored, or a greater example, two greater examples, Alien Isolation and The Last of Us, were both of those games are at least in the survival genre, where I can get I can choose whether I should try to kill them with a gun or sneak past them. I thought I was going to have some that kind of option in The Evil Within, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Like you can do stealth, but be prepared that it's not a game you can stealth your way all through. That's what I want to say. But well, at least as far as the shooting sections of the games are concerned, the feeling when you fire a weapon actually feels very satisfying. It's not really on the same level as The Last of Us, where when I was shooting a weapon, it would actually feel like I was doing it. Like it had this great weight on the control with the controlling. It's not on that same level, but it's not too far, and I do like that. I like games that have a weapon system that feels like it has a weight. Yeah, so that's good. Well, there, yeah, I think I'm. Yeah, that's all I can come up for as far as the gameplay. Well, there is one thing that I feel is a bit, and that is the controller and the camera. Because while the weapons system feels very good, the controls feel a bit clunky, and I think you may see at some point in the gameplay video in the background that or wait, is that? No, it may be in another section that is not in this video. I'm not sure, but there has been a section where I'm a fine shooter, like in video games. Like I may not get headshots all the time, but I mostly hit my targets, and there have been many occasions where, like in another game, I would have hit the target with my pistol, but in this game I haven't, because the controller feels quite clunky, and then there's the damn camera, which I don't think I've been killed because of the camera yet, but it sure is annoying, because well, it's almost like, especially in melee combat, when I try to punch the enemies, which is not really effective, since I think melee is mainly about like stunning the enemy for like just a few seconds. You can run the hell away. That's not, and that is kind of like I try to hit, and the enemy comes like behind the character turns around, but the camera doesn't, and the camera is just a mess, really. Many people have complained that they have been killed because of the camera. I have not been killed by the camera just yet, but I would not be surprised if I would. Alright, so let's bring up another issue I have with this game, and that is the difficulty. Now, you may see in like in this video where I'm saving my game, you may see that I'm actually playing on the lowest difficulty settings, which happens to be called casual. And before anyone starts to go like, "Oh, you filthy casual, get out of here!" I'm not playing on casual difficulty because I'm a casual player, because I'm not a casual gamer by any stretch of the imagination, at least as far as I can tell. But from what I've gathered from other reviews, it seemed to be a very hard game, and not in the more like in a frustrating and annoying way. So instead of playing it on normal difficulty like I usually would do, I cranked it down to the lowest, and I think I may have done a good choice there. Because sorry about the heavy breathing there. So the thing is that there's quite a bit of trial and error in this game, and I previously mentioned the invincible enemies, and those are fucking annoying. I mean, I have been killed by the same one a few times, like in the same area, and then having to restart from the last checkpoint, which admittedly wasn't really far back, but well, I kind of had to explore a few small rooms again, and now it has been too hard since I believe my first death was in chapter 3, so it doesn't seem to be too hard, at least not on casual difficulty. But it has its like moments where I feel like, yeah, if I had been playing on survival, it would have been a lot harder than it is now. So that with a combination of the checkpoint system, which can be quite annoying at times. The whole thing feels annoying because like every time I die, I'm like, oh no, not again, because I don't want to redo that section. So yeah, the difficulty is not that great, to be honest. Should I mention the story? I'm gonna mention a little bit of it because why not? Now, I don't really, I can't really tell much about the story because I have no idea what's going on. I'm completely honest. Like, all I know is that the main character was dispatched to a mental hospital. Everyone there was dead, including all the other cops. He went in, he got knocked out by some weird dude, and next thing that happens, he's hanging from the roof with a few other corpses, and some big fella starts to hack out the intestine from a corpse, and that's the first 5 minutes. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, so I don't really know much about the story, but I can tell that the main character is a bit dull, really. Like he's this tough cop who has this rough voice and likes to say like things like shit or holy crap or whatever a few times, but yeah, he doesn't seem to be an interesting character, really. His partners are a bit more interesting, but they're not there all the time, unfortunately, because I kind of want them, because they are better characters than the main characters, in my opinion, at least. Although the voice acting overall it's not great, but it's not horrible either. It's on that level, basically. And I believe like the whole game itself is inspired by previous games that Shinji Mikami has directed, like Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. Now I'm gonna say right away, I haven't played Resident Evil 4, but I would imagine that these two chapters I just mentioned would remind people that have played remind people that have played Resident Evil 4 a lot about that, because there's this very small village with murderous villagers and one big dude with a chainsaw. Doesn't that sound familiar? And then, well, there's a big manor at some point in this game. What could that be from? And like the cutscene once I got out from the mental hospital in the beginning of the game reminded me a lot of a level from the last Alone in the Dark game. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Graphics, not too impressed, really. I mean, it doesn't look bad, really. And I like the design of the enemies. It has a bit of a disturbing design, although not as disturbing as I initially thought when I looked at the box art. But yeah, I mean, decent graphics, not really amazing, however. And there are quite a bit of areas where the frame rate was dropping below 30, because I think this game runs at 30. I'm fairly certain of that. I'm 99% certain of that, so that can be a bit of annoying. And there's also one more annoying thing that I think you may see in this video, but if you don't, you will have noticed it if you played it, and that is the letterboxes. And if you don't know what a letterbox is the black rows above and below the actual screen. So instead of the game, how do I say this? Instead of the game being displayed on the whole screen, the TV screen that is, in the case of playing, it doesn't fill up it doesn't fill up quite a lot of areas below and above the screen in the game, which I think I can see why they've taken this approach, but it's something that detracts from the experience, in my opinion at least, and it seems to be the case for many others as well. But yeah, so well, I'm not going to say give my final thoughts because I haven't finished this game, but to sum up this video, I would say that The Evil Within, it's a good game. It definitely is. But it has its issues, and it clearly isn't like it's not the game that would be the upbringing of the horror genre once again. Although that may not really be needed when you have great games like Outlast and Alien Isolation very recently. So maybe it didn't really need to do that. But if you did expect that, because it's directed by Shinji Mikami, well, you're gonna be disappointed. But regardless, despite the issues that I have with this game, I do think it's a good one. So I'm definitely going to finish this somehow, because I haven't finished Alien Isolation yet either. So I'm gonna have to alternate between those games. So yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say. So well, I don't know. Possibly I might live stream, but a bit of it. But since no one said anything about that for Alien Isolation, I'm not so sure I'm going to live stream this game. But we'll see. But whatever I do next, I don't really know what that's going to be, but I'll see you guys later.